love, love, love. I love that, love that, love that. Thank you, House Band. Thank you, Marion Lewis. Thank you, amazing, sparkly, bright choir, Agape choir. Hello, welcome, 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 everyone. I am, as Reverend Coco said, Reverend Suzi Lula, for anyone who I'm meeting for the first time or vice versa. I'm so happy and honored and humbled to get to be here with all of you in a community, a soul family that's called Agape, unconditional love. Where else is better to be today? So I welcome you, we welcome you, Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith welcomes you. Just feel embraced in the soul family of a lifetime. And I feel always honored to get to speak and share, but especially that we're kicking off the celebration of Women's History Month. Let's hear it for the Divine Feminine. It's about time to have the Divine Feminine express, or wear a little bling for everybody, to honor the Divine Feminine in you. As Reverend Michael said in the reading, the Divine Feminine energy is not a male energy and or a female energy. Whether you identify as male, female, trans, fluid, anywhere in between, the divine feminine energy resides within each one of us. Each one of us is here to express the healthy masculine energy and the healthy feminine energy. And so this month we are celebrating the divine feminine, women who in history up until now may have gone unnoticed, overlooked, and it is our time to honor and celebrate them. And in particular, today we are honoring the divine feminine energy that has been a bit suppressed, and it's time for us to allow that energy within us to birth itself, to emerge, to be unleashed. So I'm grateful to be here as I'm speaking. Perhaps just become aware within you. Again, in the reading, such a powerful reading today, Reverend Michael says that to access that divine energy, we move, we allow our minds to rest, and we allow our heart to open. Because what are the qualities of the divine feminine? As he said in the reading, the qualities of the divine feminine, receiving. So you need do nothing else in this moment but relax, open your heart, and receive the good that is here in particular for you, because there is something specific. If you are here, there is something specific here for you. So the qualities of the divine feminine are receiving, allowing, letting, surrendering into this good that is everywhere around you, getting to know that invisible quantum presence like you've never known it before, and then simply becoming that instrument, that vehicle, that channel that allows the divine feminine to flow to you and through you. And so this particular teaching that I'm going to share with you today actually was birthed out of a conversation. Did you catch that? Birth, divine feminine. Birth, you gotta listen under. Birth out of a conversation that Reverend Michael and I were having the other day, and we were just sharing our respective journeys around receiving, around the divine feminine, around this life of service and abundance and prosperity and well-being that we get to live today. And I was sharing with him how when I first moved to Los Angeles, that wasn't necessarily the consciousness that I was residing in back in the day. I moved here during the LA riots, for anyone who is old enough to remember the riots. And I moved here and I just experienced such heartache, really, for the way humanity was showing up in the world at the time. And I felt just a devastation inside in the pit of my stomach. And simultaneously, though, I was feeling really, I'm going to use the word insignificant, because it was just the perfect description of how I was feeling at the time. So don't know if any of you have ever felt insignificant, small, not enough. I was, thank you. I know that I'm not alone, thank you. I was experiencing this, and I was wondering, like, what could I possibly add? What could I possibly do to put a dent into what was happening in this community. And I remember like it was yesterday, I went into a moment of meditation and I asked, what is mine to do today? What can I do? And immediately upon asking that question, what is mine to do today? Maybe you have an area of your life right now that you're struggling with. Right now, as I'm speaking, ask yourself the question, what is mine to do today? Because as I asked that question, I immediately heard a response. You have a broom, you can sweep. So I asked this question, what is mine to do? And I hear this response, I have a broom, I can sweep. So I literally picked up my broom, I drove myself down to South Central, and I was literally part of the cleanup post-riots, and I'm literally just sweeping my side of the street as part of the cleanup efforts, and I was approached by an older, handsome black man. Unbeknownst to me at the time, this was Pastor Cecil Murray. He was pastor of the First AME Church in Los Angeles, a very historic church, didn't know it at the time. And he asked me the question, what is a little white girl like you doing in this black neighborhood? And so I started sharing with him, and he was sharing then back with me how the injustices in the black community are misportrayed by the media, how the media does misportray the black community. And he was sharing a true example that just that day before, the gang leaders from the two largest gangs in LA, the Crips and the Bloods, had come together and formed a truce. So there was peace happening between these two gang factions, and yet the media was not reporting on this. So I am listening to this conversation, and I am receiving feminine energy, receiving in this invisible downflow this idea of creating an event where I would bring together the leaders of the Crips and the Bloods to show publicly what the media was not showing publicly. So, cut to the next day. Synchronicity. Synchronicity is the language of the universe, so start watching out for synchronicities in your life. They are always happening if you but look for them. So the next day, I just moved to LA. Next day, my first day at Agape. A friend of mine had said, go to this place called Agape, you'll love the music, because I'm a musician. So I'm sitting there listening to Michael Bernard Beckwith, and I could see him speaking at this event. So I go up to him after service. He doesn't know me. It was back in the day. Maybe some of you remember Reverend Coco. He had a receiving line. We'd go introduce ourselves, say thank you. And Rebecca Clemens was his assistant at the time. And I was going up to introduce myself and just ask for a meeting with him. And he asked me in true Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith style, well, what are you doing? What's happening? So I explained to him everything that had happened, and like it was yesterday, you guys, I remember him just looking into my eyes. It was like heart-to-heart moment. And he said, also in true Michael Bernard Beckwith fashion, I'll speak at that. I'll be there. And then he said, our choir will be there. All we need are 2 buses to transport them. So we did, in fact, do this event, brought together the leaders of the Crips and the Bloods, actually at the Scottish Rite Auditorium just down the street. And as I'm sharing this, Reverend Michael begins to reflect back to me, imagine you asked, what can I do? You heard, take up thy broom and sweep. What if you hadn't done that? What if you hadn't asked? What if you hadn't done that? Maybe we would not have met in that particular way and become this soul family that we are. So as I'm sharing the rest of this story, I want you to start asking yourself, what are you being called to do? What can you do? Perhaps you're struggling in the area of health in your life, and you ask, well, what can I do? And you hear something as seemingly simple as, I can hydrate my body today. I Can Hydrate My Body today has an entire invisible quantum energy that has radiant, vital, dynamic health. Now, there is a vitality, a health within the infinite quantum field that is the feminine, that is just inviting you to connect with it. I didn't know what was there for me. I simply was obedient. Maybe you're having a challenge with a family member, with a sibling, with an in-law, with your career. Maybe if you ask, what is mine to do right now? Maybe you're hearing, you can be the one to make that first phone call. Maybe your ego doesn't want to make that first phone call. Maybe your ego's still thinking that you're right. You can be right. You can think you're right, and you can still make that phone call. Because if you make that phone call, there is an entire relationship. There's intimacy. There's connection. There's a vitality. There's so much that's happening if you are obedient to the prompting of your soul. So as he's reflecting to me, he goes on to say, and think about it. I said, yes. We meet, I come here, I dive into the classes, I become a spiritual therapist. Now I get to sit one-on-one with individuals every single day. I get to teach classes every day. I'm getting ready to leave to go speak at an international women's event in Philadelphia. I get to do this. I met and married my beloved husband, Jamie. We raised our son here. All of this, as he said in the reading, go back to that reading, he says in the reading, we are not here to really merely make something happen, to struggle. There is not meant to be strife. What we are here to do is to tune in and tap in to this divine energy that is already in the quantum field. If you take nothing else with you today, please hear this. Right now, right where you're sitting, as you ask this question, as you answer the question, there is in the invisible energy already an entire life that is just waiting for you to receive it. Just waiting for you. Yes, you should clap on your own behalf. This is here for every single one. We are simply here to become that instrument to receive, to let, to allow what is already in the quantum field to move through you, to you, and through you. So he's sharing this, and then he texts me, which go after service, he texts me a YouTube of a Martin Luther King talk, The Blueprint of Your Life, that I think he spoke at a middle school or high school. Don't quote me on that, but I can guarantee you if I was in middle school or high school, I wish I had heard this. And in this talk that is so brilliant, he says, if it is your lot in life, many of you know this, if it is your lot in life to be a street sweeper, you are to sweep your street like Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel. If that's not a mandate for all of us, whatever is your calling, you are to do it like Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel. Now, this is very important. Why? Because in the Jewish mystical tradition, we pray to be like a rooster. Does anybody know why we might pray to be like a rooster? I know it was always a burning question in my heart. Reverend Joanne probably knows. We pray to be like a rooster because the rooster is the animal that's lived through the darkest part of the night and is then the announcer of the dawn. The announcer of the light is the crowing of the rooster. So we are here to be the announcer of the light, the bringer of the light to the darkness that is within each one of us. So right now, as I'm saying, you may ask, well, what can I do today? Maybe you're having the prompting to call an old friend that you haven't talked to in a while that really could use some support. And you invite said friend to a restaurant thinking that you're being of service to said friend, and you are, and maybe you meet the love of your life sitting at a table next to you at that restaurant. Because in this invisible quantum realm is the rest of your life to unfold through you. So hear this, the rooster does not rail against the dark that it has just moved through. What does the rooster do? The rooster is the announcer of the light. Why is this so important? As Reverend Michael has been sharing this past month or so, we are here not to be against anything. When you are the announcer of the light, You, right in that moment, raise your own vibration. You raise your own frequency. You don't deny that there's some darkness going on. Anybody notice that there might be some darkness going on the planet right now? We're not denying that. But we don't want to meet darkness with the energy and the vibration of darkness. Who teaches us this? Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein says, we will never solve the problem at the level of consciousness that creates the problem. So we are to be like a rooster. We are to connect with the light and be the bringer and the announcer of the light, because what does that do? That raises our vibration first and foremost. You want your vibration to raise first and foremost, so then you can be a beneficial presence on the planet. Right? So, yes, we want to be a beneficial presence on the planet, so you can cheer about that. We got to do that. We're being collectively called to pick up our broom and sweep, because there's some sweeping that needs to be done on planet Earth, yes? So we are for something against, we're not against the darkness. When you meet the darkness in fear and worry, which is where they want you to meet the darkness, then your vibration vibrates at the level of the fear and darkness. No, we are to rise up and stand up and speak out. So in that conversation, Reverend Michael was also sharing with me that he is the one in his neighborhoods and in respective neighborhoods where he is the one that picks up the trash. So what can we do, Agape? We can be the trash picker-uppers in our neighborhood, because God knows somebody's got to do that, right? Jamie and I lead transformational travel trips, and we took a group of individuals to Bali. And I learned in Bali that in Bali, when they go sweep their sidewalks, they don't only sweep in front of their own house. They sweep in front of their house, they sweep to the house to the right, and they sweep to the house to the left. And everyone is respectively doing that, so all of their neighborhoods are beautiful and clean and pristine, because they honor the dignity not only of their own family, but of their family to the right, of their family to the left. As Reverend Michael was saying, also in the reading, the feminine energy is the energy of interconnectedness. We are all one big, giant soul family. So let us rise up to sweep up for our neighbors to the right and our neighbors to the left. Anybody here just feel like it's our time to speak up for marginalized communities, for Black communities, brown communities, Latino communities? Yes, it's time to stand up and speak out and pick up our brooms for the trans and gay communities that have been marginalized, that are being marginalized right now. So we ready to collectively pick up our brooms, speak up, speak out. I know right now politically, what can we do? We can boycott, we can call our senators, we can call our congressmen. There is so many things that we can do, correct? There are right now on planet Earth, Reverend Michael references this often, right now in this very moment on planet Earth, there are children right now dying. There's a child dying in Palestine, there's a child dying in Israel, there's a child dying in Congo and South Africa and the Ukraine. There are children dying, but we have to say, not on our watch, not this time. Are you ready? Yes. Are you ready to collectively pick up our brooms and start sweeping? Start being that voice, that obedient presence that says, in that, right now, this is what you have to catch, right now, in the invisible realm, in the quantum realm, peace is. Yes. Peace is. It's already in the quantum realm. Why? Because I know how to reference it. So it must be here. We need to just become instruments to be available to allow the peace on the planet to come to us and through us as a collective community. If John Lennon could imagine it, if Martin Luther King could have a dream, we collectively can take up our brooms and sweep. Yes? Yes. Peace and love, Agape.